Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can I be turned around to see the audience, if possible?
Is that your camera? Or? Nope, it's there on the computer.
Not that I don't want to look at my co-speakers. I'm feeling rather conspicuous up here, and I wish I could be part of your group in physically. My name is Hammond Callahan, and I have been a Voice of Women member for quite a while myself, but my life took some turns, and here I am. I wanted to start today by just an excerpt from Julia Ward Howe's Mother's Day for Peace Proclamation, 1870, because I think it connects a lot of the things being said and things I want to say. Arise then, women of this day. And she goes on, we will not have questions answered by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands will not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We, the women of our country, will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. And she goes on to say, for the bosom of the earth, our voice goes up, its voice goes up with ours. Disarm, disarm. The sword of murder is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence indicate possession. As men have often forsaken the plow and the anvil at the summons of war, let women now leave all that may be left of home for a great and earnest day of counsel. Let them meet first as women to bewail and commemorate the dead. Let them solemnly take counsel with each other as to the means whereby the great human family can live in peace. And that's where I'm going to end that poem by Julia Ward Howe in 1870, just after the American Civil War, at the time of the Franco-Prussian War. And of course, many of you probably know that there's a fairly long, well-documented history of women coming together to oppose war as mothers and as citizens. And also, there's also been some form of feminism often present in their rationale or action. As the late Barbara Roberts, the Canadian peace historian, has said, maternalism has been used to embolden women. And in that sense, to lay their rightful claim to a voice and place in society as citizens. Now, I want to start by saying, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to read my paper somewhat and summarize as much as I can to get through it. We're talking about the Cold War, a time when Cold Warriors, as they're referred to, regarded world peace as Soviet propaganda, and anti-nuclear groups were coming under intense scrutiny, and police surveillance included. But I'm arguing here that the women's peace groups presented a particular danger to the security state. This is going to be a study of a particular Cold War experience of the Voice of Women in 1964. When Val joined Women's Strike for Peace, now the Voice of Women, they were known as Voices. Women's Strike for Peace were known as Whispers. So I may refer to that. And Val in 1964 joined Women's Strike for Peace to protest the multilateral nuclear force that was being proposed under the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Like the American, I'll tell you about that in a minute, like the American Strike for Peace, which was established a year later than VOW in 1961, Voice of Women laid claim to global motherhood and the interests of the human family to end the threat of nuclear war. They had a national membership not too long of 6,000 strong, and their activities included, some of them pointed out by Ursula and Martha, the baby tooth survey campaign and follow-up study, international peace conferences in Montreal, 1962 and later, peace train from Montreal to Ottawa, to oppose nuclear weapons on Canadian soil, the visit of the Soviet women to Canada, the United Nations declaring an international year of peace, but which ended up being, because peace was too problematic, international year of cooperation in 1965, and of course a decade-long series of protests against the Vietnam War in the beginning of the mid-60s. But I'm looking at, of course, this international campaign against the multilateral nuclear force. So VOW's efforts to influence public opinion, politicians, Canadian foreign policy on such issues of peace and security made them a target of state surveillance as well as media ridicule. As women, they were not only transgressing gender boundaries, but also endangering national security, and engendering it, because of their supposedly greater susceptibility to communist plots as women. Historians of gender in the Cold War have demonstrated that a conservative sexual order was really quite central to anti-communist forces at this time. So against this backdrop of communist allegations and international women's peace movement, I'm exploring how VOW challenged masculine authority and really contested deeply embedded gender orders and social orders in Canadian contexts. Okay, here we go. On May 14th, 1964, an RCMP telegram from The Hague addressed to the External Affairs Department, disclosed that the Voice of Women Canada was protesting the MLF, multilateral nuclear force, on that very afternoon in the NATO headquarters in The Hague, where some 1,500 women from all over Western Europe and North America had convened as a multilateral women's counterforce. And under the banner, officially NATO Women's Peace Force, the Whispers, the Women's Strike for Peace, had spearheaded an international conference and protest march at the site of the NATO Ministerial Council at The Hague, where they anticipated the MLF was to become a reality. So the MLF was touted as America's nuclear solution for NATO in the early 60s, when Eisenhower and Kennedy administrations proposed to create a fleet of some 25 ships bearing each 8 Polaris ballistic nuclear missiles. Although under NATO command, these ships will be run by a majority of American and West German naval personnel. When Women's Strike for Peace first became aware of the US State Department plan, they not only brought it to the attention of the media and the general public, but also put out a call to the other peace-minded women of NATO countries to prevent this implementation. I should add that they also they also really garnered support through their contacts through wealth and also politically respectable sponsors such as Nobel laureates, Linus Pauling, Bertrand Russell also lent legitimacy to their campaign, and Simone de Beauvoir provided a written endorsement of it as well. Evidently, the Whispers were concerned not only that the MLF signaled a proliferation of nuclear weapons, but also that it threatened to rearm West Germany only 20 years after World War II and the Holocaust. These international networking led to the establishment of the NATO Women's Peace Force, which comprised of women from all over Europe, 41 from the States, 130 from Britain, 200 from Holland, and also the vast majority, 800 from West Germany, 11 from Canada, and there were others. And basically they used this opportunity to educate. They had meetings. Leading up to this meeting, they had meetings, publicity, petitions signed, and that is how they informed the public and the media. The Canadian delegation joining this NATO Women's Peace Force at The Hague was under the Voice of Women president at the time, Kay McPherson. It was a small but no doubt formidable group of 11 women bearing their own position against the MLF for the Canadian government on the 13th of May. Like their sister organization, which they did refer to Women's Strength for Peace as, the Voice of Women aimed to educate the Canadian public and media, inform and pressure their own government to oppose the MLF and support global disarmament. That was the broader strategy. In preparation for this, they wrote they circulated background information to the public and the media about the MLF. They wrote MPs and the media, and overall, according to the Kay McPherson's report, the President's report, there was great TV and radio coverage in Canada. She said it was fantastically good comparing it even to the UK and the US, because it coincided with some of her national meetings, and also because it was associated with Mother's Day at the time.